In the quiet city of Springfield, Judge Daniel Dan Harper was known as a pillar of the community. At 54, he had spent over 2 decades on the bench, earning a reputation for his strict rulings and unwavering commitment to justice. He lived in an upscale neighborhood with his wife, Linda Harper, a well-known interior designer. To the outside world, Dan was the epitome of integrity and professionalism. But behind closed doors, a dark secret was brewing, one that would shatter lives and end in unimaginable tragedy. Dan's double life began to unravel when he started an affair with his younger brother's wife, Emily Carter. Emily, 28, was a vibrant and ambitious woman who had married Dan's brother, Michael Carter, just 3 years earlier. The affair started innocently enough casual conversations at family gatherings, lingering glances, and then secret meetings at a secluded motel on the outskirts of town. What began as a forbidden romance soon spiraled into a dangerous game of deception and betrayal. But this story isn't just about a secret affair. It's about how lies, power, and desperation can lead to unspeakable violence. By the end of this tale, 2 lives will be lost, and a community will be left questioning the very foundations of justice. Before we dive deeper into this chilling story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any part of this gripping narrative. Now let's uncover the dark secrets that led to a double murder and the downfall of a respected judge. Emily Carter never imagined her life would take such a dark turn. What started as a thrilling escape from the monotony of her marriage to Michael quickly became a tangled web of lies and fear. Dan Harper, the powerful judge, was not a man who took risks lightly. He had everything to lose: his career, his reputation, and his marriage. But Emily, young and naive, didn't fully grasp the danger she was in until it was too late. Their affair began in the spring of 2020. Emily, feeling neglected by Michael, found solace in Dan's attention. He was charming, confident, and unlike her husband, he made her feel seen. They met in secret at the Pineview Motel, a rundown establishment on the edge of Springfield. Dan always paid in cash, using the alias Mr. Smith, and insisted they keep their meetings brief. But as the months passed, their encounters grew more frequent, and Emily began to notice subtle changes in Dan's behavior. By the summer of 2020, Emily discovered she was pregnant. Panicked, she confided in Dan, hoping he would support her. Instead, he grew cold and distant. "This can't happen," he told her during one of their secret meetings. "You need to take care of it." Emily, however, refused. She wanted to keep the baby, even if it meant facing the consequences. Dan's desperation grew as Emily's pregnancy progressed. He began to withdraw from her, canceling their meetings and ignoring her calls. But Emily wasn't willing to let him off the hook so easily. She started documenting their affair-saving text messages, taking photos of their motel receipts, and even recording their conversations. She knew Dan had the power to ruin her life, but she also knew she had the power to ruin his. In October 2020, Emily gave birth to a baby boy, whom she named Jacob. The birth certificate listed no father, and Emily refused to answer any questions about paternity. Michael, unaware of the affair, assumed the child was his and tried to be a supportive husband. But the strain of their failing marriage and the financial burden of raising a child began to take its toll. Meanwhile, Dan's life was unraveling. His wife Linda noticed his increasingly erratic behavior late nights at the office, unexplained absences, and sudden mood swings. She suspected he was having an affair but had no proof. Dan, on the other hand, was consumed by fear. He knew it was only a matter of time before Emily exposed him, and he was determined to protect his reputation at all costs. In early 2022, Michael began to suspect that Jacob might not be his son. A chance encounter at a local grocery store sparked his curiosity. Security footage showed Dan Harper visibly shaken when he saw Michael pushing Jacob in a shopping cart. Dan quickly abandoned his groceries and left the store, leaving Michael with more questions than answers. Determined to uncover the truth, Michael hired a private investigator, Mark Thompson, to dig into Emily's past. What he discovered was shocking photos of Emily and Dan together, receipts from the Pineview Motel, and a timeline that pointed to Dan as Jacob's father. Armed with this evidence, Michael confronted Dan in his office at the courthouse. The conversation, recorded on a hidden device, was tense and accusatory. "I know the truth, Dan," Michael said, his voice trembling with anger. "Jacob is your son. You've been lying to everyone, to me, to Linda, to the entire community. How could you do this?" Dan, ever the composed judge, denied everything. "You are mistaken, Michael," he replied calmly. "I have no idea what you are talking about, but if you continue to spread these lies, I'll have no choice but to take legal action." But Dan's calm facade was just that, a facade. Behind the scenes, he was panicking. He knew Michael's investigation could expose him, and he couldn't let that happen. He began to take drastic measures, hiring his own private investigator to monitor Emily and Michael. He even started making plans to flee the country, setting up offshore accounts and researching passport forgers. The pressure on Emily was unbearable. She began receiving anonymous threats text messages warning her to keep quiet, or else. Think about Jacob's future. One message read, "You don't want him to grow up without a mother, do you?" Emily knew the messages were from Dan, but she had no proof. She lived in constant fear, looking over her shoulder every time she left the house. By the fall of 2022, the situation reached a breaking point. On the 1st of October, Emily withdrew all her savings from the bank, $3,500 in cash hand, bought a prepaid phone. That night, she sent Dan a message. "I have proof of everything, the receipts, the photos, the recordings. Either you start supporting Jacob, or I'll expose you to the world." She attached a photo of Jacob, his features bearing an uncanny resemblance to Dan. Dan's response was chilling. "You are making a serious mistake." But Emily wasn't backing down. Over the next few weeks, she sent Dan a list of demands: monthly child support, a college fund for Jacob, and a written acknowledgement of paternity. Dan, however, had no intention of complying. Instead, he began plotting his next move on that would silence Emily forever. On the evening of the 15th of December, 2022, Emily Carter left her apartment with Jacob, telling Michael she was meeting someone who could help them financially. She seemed hopeful, almost optimistic, as she strapped Jacob into his car seat. "Everything's going to be okay," she told Michael before leaving. "Jacob's future is going to be brighter." But Emily never returned. Her last known location was a remote area off Route 7, just outside Springfield. The spot, a gravel turnout surrounded by dense woods, was secluded and rarely visited. Security cameras from a nearby gas station captured Dan Harper's black SUV heading toward the area around 8 p.m. His Easy Pass records showed no toll road usage that night, suggesting he had taken back roads to avoid detection. What happened next was pieced together through forensic evidence and witness testimony. Emily and Jacob were found on the 8th of January 2023 by a hiker named David Miller. The bodies, partially covered with branches, showed signs of a violent struggle. Emily's fingernails were broken, and traces of Dan's DNA were found beneath them. Tire tracks matching Dan's SUV were discovered at the scene, along with Jacob's stuffed teddy bear stained with blood. The investigation revealed the horrifying details of their final moments. Emily had fought desperately to protect herself and her son, but she was no match for Dan. Jacob, just 2 years old, had been suffocated, likely as he witnessed his mother's murder. The crime scene was carefully staged to look like an accident, but the evidence told a different story. When the bodies were discovered, the community was in shock. Emily's family, especially Michael, was devastated. He had suspected Dan was involved, but he never imagined the judge would go to such lengths to protect his secret. Michael immediately turned over all the evidence he had gathered to the police, including the recordings of his confrontation with Dan. The police moved quickly. Dan's alibi that he had been at home all evening fell apart when cell tower data placed his phone near the crime scene at the time of the murders. Security footage from a local restaurant showed him buying takeout at 10:30 p.m., but microscopic evidence told a different story. Fibers from Jacob's pajamas were found in Dan's SUV, and a partial fingerprint on Jacob's sippy cup matched Dan's. The final blow came when investigators searched Dan's home. Hidden in a safe, they found a prepaid phone used to send threatening messages to Emily, along with $25,000 in cash and a folder of surveillance photos. Among the photos were images of Emily and Jacob, taken without their knowledge. The safe also contained medical records, illegally obtained, that confirmed Dan's paternity. Dan's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. During a second police interview, he broke down when confronted with the DNA evidence and Jacob's blood-stained teddy bear. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said, his voice shaking. "She wouldn't stop. She kept pushing, threatening to ruin everything I've built. I just wanted her to stop." But his remorse came too late. On the 23rd of January 2023, a grand jury indicted Dan Harper on multiple charges, including first-degree murder, statutory rape, and witness intimidation. The arrest warrant was executed the following morning. FBI agents found Dan in his study, shredding documents that detailed his plans to flee the country. The trial of the state of Illinois v. Daniel Harper began on the 15th of June 2023 in the Springfield Circuit Court. The case drew national attention, with media outlets dubbing it the judge's double life. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including forensic reports, witness testimony, and Dan's own incriminating statements. Michael Carter's testimony was particularly emotional. He described his growing suspicions, his confrontation with Dan, and the heartbreaking moment he realized Jacob might not be his son. "I loved that boy like he was my own," Michael said, his voice breaking. "But Dan took everything from me wife, my son, my trust in justice." Emily's diary, discovered after her death, was also entered into evidence. In it, she wrote about her fear of Dan and her determination to protect Jacob. "He says he'll destroy me if I tell the truth," one entry read. "But Jacob deserves to know his father. He deserves a better life than this." The trial reached its climax when Linda Harper, Dan's wife of 23 years, took the stand. Her testimony revealed a pattern of manipulation and control. Dan was obsessed with his image, she said. The night Emily and Jacob disappeared, he came home late, showered immediately, and burned his clothes in the fireplace. "I knew something terrible had happened." Faced with overwhelming evidence, Dan accepted a plea deal on the 12th of July, 2023. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of statutory rape in exchange for life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole. As he stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, the once respected jurist was a broken man. Judge William Carter, who presided over the case, delivered the final blow during sentencing. "Daniel Harper, you betrayed the trust of this community, your family, and the principles of justice you swore to uphold. You took 2 innocent lives to protect your reputation, and for that, you will spend the rest of your days behind bars." As Dan was led away in chains, Michael Carter stood and addressed him directly. "You didn't just kill Emily and Jacob," he said, his voice steady but filled with pain. "You killed my faith in justice. But now everyone knows the truth about who you really are." The case of Judge Daniel Harper is a chilling reminder of how power, deception, and desperation can lead to unimaginable tragedy. What began as a forbidden affair spiraled into a web of lies, manipulation, and ultimately, murder. Dan's fall from Gracia, respected judge, to a convicted killer shows how even the most seemingly upright individuals can harbor dark secrets. Emily and Jacob's story is one of innocence lost, a heartbreaking tale of a young mother and her child who paid the ultimate price for one man's greed and fear. This case forces us to confront difficult questions about trust, justice, and the lengths people will go to protect their reputations. It's a stark reminder that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always come to light. If this story gripped you as much as it did us, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to True Crime Mind Mysteries for more deep dives into shocking cases that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. What do you think about Dan's actions? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have a case you'd like us to cover, drop us a suggestion. We're always looking for new mysteries to unravel. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is always out there. True Crime Mind Mysteries, where every story has a dark side.